You are now tuned in to the sounds of
Big Nate Sports Talk.
It's on all the time, anytime.
Tuned in to Big Nate Sports Talk, the show that is on all the time, anytime. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the next big thing, the latest up-and-coming sports journalist, your host, Nathan Snell.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony Handy, for that lovely introduction. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is your host, Nathan Snell of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. I hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all staying safe. This is episode 7 of the podcast. In this episode, we are breaking down the Baltimore Ravens draft picks, and we're also analyzing. But before we get into that, there's a few things I'd like to say up front. Episode 6 should already have been up by now. I'll be recording another episode. We'll bring on the Washington Commanders draft picks. We're also analyzing that as well. The schedule should be coming out soon, hopefully by the week of the 15th. Hopefully that week, the schedule should be out, so we'll be out with that. The WNBA preview will be out shortly. I'll start working on the notes and everything this weekend. Like I said, WNBA content is going to start coming out soon, so definitely check that out on my channel. But yeah, man, just thank you for the support you're giving me in this channel. It's muchly greatly appreciated. Season 15 is moving right along. But just be on the lookout for more content coming forward. So for the Baltimore Ravens, for me, this was a draft where I felt like we kind of had to reset about some things in the resetting of we're going away from now Greg Roman style. For the last 5 years, we've heard all the narratives, with Greg, with Lamar Jackson. The system was built for Lamar Jackson, when in reality that's never the case. His offense was built for Greg Roman. John Harbaugh made it clear that Greg Roman had last season to get it done, get it fixed, and he did not do that. The game against Cincinnati in the playoffs was everything that you needed to see. And even throughout the regular season, the utilization of those wide receivers to the point where we're looking to Deshaun Jackson as if he was the second coming. Devin Duvernay after week 3, not used. When you have Rashard Bateman literally go on social media and go at Eric DeCosta. And some of that's also in John Harbaugh. I felt like John Harbaugh did not take accountability and just saying, hey, I got to be better in handling some of these issues. And some of them you can't defend. And I think letting Greg Roman walk and bringing in Todd Monken, I think it's a breath of fresh air for this franchise. I'm happy that Lamar Jackson was signed. We're going to talk about that in a future video. But I think this draft reset a couple of things for us. But before we get into that, I want you guys to understand we did not have a second round pick or a fifth round pick or a seventh round pick. We traded the second and fifth round pick to Chicago along with AJ Klein to Chicago Bears for Roquan Smith. We traded Sean Wade last year to New England for a fifth round pick. And then we traded a seventh round pick and last year's fifth round pick and Ben Breedson to the New York Giants for a fourth round pick. And for the most part, I think these grades are fair. And we're going to start with who I think is going to be a big piece in the resetting of the Baltimore Ravens offense, and that is Mr. Zay Flowers. This is the receiver that I think will definitely do a lot of wonders. When you coming out of Boston College, his explosiveness to me is going to be key. That's something this Baltimore Ravens offense has lacked really since 2015. We're going back to after Anquan Boldin left. I mean, Steve Smith Sr., Marlon Brown. I think Torrey Smith was in there a couple years where he departed for San Francisco. Just a mess. I think he can definitely contribute because when you look at the stats last year, the wide receivers that the Ravens had, they combined for under 250 yards receiving.
Mm-hmm. I can't defend that. Mm-mm. What do you want me to say to that?
And the catch to in another stat that stood out to me was yards after the catch. It was like under 33. That was the fourth fewest yards in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. I can't defend that. Mm-mm. What do you want me to say to that?
So I think for me, when I look at Zay Flowers, to me, you signed Odell Beckham Jr. You signed Nelson Aguilar on 1-year deals. I think this revamps the wide receiving core. I think it's better than what it has been. To me, he's the most dynamic player coming out. When I looked at the combine, he bulked up. He's just eye-catching athleticism. Compared him to Tyreek Hill. I mean, he showed it at Boston College, and it's just going to be something to watch. And I can't wait to see what it looks like. Now, I do have a couple things because I do think it's a little unfair because everyone's kind of looking like, well, what does this mean for Rashard Bateman? You have to understand, Rashard Bateman was injured, and he had a bad foot injury. I think this year, he's going to come back stronger. But I think these two are your guys going forward, in my personal opinion. I'm still holding out hope for Tylan Wallace in there, but that's a whole nother subject for another video. But I give this an A+. Let's go to the third round pick. I actually had him going in the first round, and this was actually a steal for us. Trenton Simpson. I think this was a major steal for the Ravens. This is a clear-cut best available player, linebacker out of Clemson. To me, I'm going to be curious to see how we utilize him. Now, I want to say this. I think it's a little unfair the way we've thrown. We're all kind of wanting Patrick Queen out of Baltimore. I understand we traded for Roquan Smith, but you have to also understand, look at the guy that was the defensive coordinator before Mike McDonald came here, and that was Wink Martindale. Was very blitz happy. I think when Roquan Smith came here, Patrick Queen moved to his true natural position. He played a lot better. My only concern, and this is another issue that we got to really start understanding, is depth. I personally believe you can re-sign Patrick Queen. If you trade him, what are you getting his value for? I hate to see good players like Patrick. Because Patrick Queen to me is a good player. His game picked up last year. I just hate to see great talent like that get traded, and then we're sitting here on Twitter Spaces or whatnot, and we're saying, "Oh, maybe we should have gotten this, that, and that." Um, I don't see us moving on from it. I see us re-signing Patrick Queen. Looking at the stats at Clemson, he totaled 12 and a half sacks, 22 and a half tackles for loss, 6 pass breakups, 3 forced fumbles. That's talent. I kind of see him on the weak side because also too Justin. No, that was on the right side. We need to start really having some depth there, and I don't think that there's an successor to Patrick Queen. I think to me this is more of depth. I think we can still do some things with Patrick Queen, Simpson, Roquan, and even Oba. I really do believe that. For me, I just think it just was more of a depth pick, giving us another flexible piece because he has the speed and everything. He can disrupt things on defense. I just think he just brings a lot of value, particularly in the third round, the way he fell. Let's go to the fourth round with the 124th overall pick. We picked up Tarvius Robinson, outside linebacker out of Mississippi. Again, the key for me is getting youthful and building depth. As much as those guys were great, and I appreciate what they did for us for the last couple of years, Justin Houston, JPP, Calais Campbell, and those guys are older, particularly in the linebackers. They're not doing much for me. You have to, if you want to compete for a championship, you want to get younger. You don't want to keep signing guys that are on their way out the door. Do they bring a veteran presence? Yes, sure. But again, when you have this is their third straight year where they've drafted outside linebacker. Owe, who I think is going to go to the defensive line, Ajabo, who's coming off an injury, and now Tarvius. I think for me, this is something that addresses the depth. I think you got to have depth at this position. He's shown he has the tools. He's a well-developed pass rusher. I think this is what Baltimore needs. Out of Ole Miss, I just think he is a disruptive force. I think last year he had 7 tackles for loss. I think he had like 6 sacks and forced 4 fumbles. You want that in a guy, particularly a linebacker. And I like this pick for Baltimore. Let's get into the 5th round. And this is where I have mixed feelings about drafting Zay Flowers, but I also have mixed feelings about this because me personally, before we get into the 5th round pick, I personally believe coming into this draft, I should have prefaced my comments by saying this before we broke this pick down. I wanted Baltimore to address defense with the first round pick, particularly a corner. Baltimore has not valued defense, and particularly drafting a corner since Marlon Humphrey. Let me just name you the guys that are going to be the corners. Jalen Armour-Davis, Trayvon Mullen, Kavon Seymour, Adarius Washington, Demarion Williams, Daryl Worley, and probably more than likely will sign a Rocky Sin. If you're comfortable with that, God bless you. I'm not confident in those guys. I truly am not. I watched Kavon Seymour last couple years with the Ravens not do so well. Marcus Peters, I'm just very, very disappointed to really kind of see the true colors of some, particularly, again, where we're saying he's washed, he's trash. The man literally came off an injury. I still think he can provide a lot for a team. To me, he brought a mental toughness that, for honestly, since the Ray Lewis and Avery left, Baltimore was truly lacking. But in the 5th round with the 157th overall pick, Q Blue Kelly out of Stanford. I'm not a fan of the fact we went to the 5th round to get him. because that to me was the most glaring issue. Um, I, to me, he's just going to have to develop. I think he's just going to take this year. Look at the tape out of Stanford. He's known for his press coverage. Last year on 31 targets, he allowed 12 completions. That was the second month's best in the Pac-12. His dad, Brian Kelly, who played on the other side of Ronde Barber in Tampa Bay, was a solid little corner. I hated playing them on Madden, particularly if you threw the ball on his side of the field. We'll see. He has the size, he has the strength. For me, I'm just curious to see what it looks like. But I'm not a fan of the fact we went to the 5th round to address this. And there were some other guys that we kind of passed up on. Kaylee Ringo was there, DJ Turner was there. And it is what it is, but I think he'll do fine with us. So I'm curious. We get a former, we get a good corner, but I'm not liking the fact we went to the 5th round to address that. To me, was the most glaring position. Before we get into the final 2 picks for the Baltimore Ravens, let's take a commercial break with our sponsor, Zagnif Apparel. Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to dress like you're already famous? Then why don't you check out Zagnif Apparel, where you can and you will dress like you're already famous.
The following is a presentation of Zagnif Productions, LLC. Introducing Zagnif Apparel. Our comfortable line of leisure wear and athletic wear will have you comfortable and stylish at any occasion. Whether you're at the gym, out shopping, or just relaxing at home. Whether you're an athlete or just want to lay around the house, we've got the perfect outfit for you. Stop by our website today and pick up your favorite pieces. Zagnif Apparel. Dress like you're already famous.
You can certainly dress like you're already famous with a nice 15% off using my code BIGNATE for 15% off your purchase with Zagnif Apparel. Thank you so much for Zagnif Apparel being a sponsor of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. And we're back with the 6th overall pick. I apologize if I mispronounced this name. The 6th overall pick, with the 6th round with the 199th overall pick, Masela Onvialula, offensive lineman out of Oregon. This is a developmental piece. This is more for depth. The last 2 offensive linemen that were drafted by Baltimore in this late of a round was Bradley Bozeman and Ryan Jensen, who turned out to be starters. You drafted Daniel Falele last year. he's kind of had an interesting story coming out of Oregon. Before he got there, he went from a no-star. He wasn't a no-star recruit coming out of high school. Um, I like this. It's just more of a depth thing. For me, he has the size, he has the length. Look at the tape, but I don't. When I'm looking at an offensive lineman, um, you have to be a true impactful blocker. And I think that's going to take some development, take some time, but I think I can see him definitely making an impact. Um, because I'm not really confident with some of the other guys. Now, we did sign a couple other guys. Um, Kevin Zeitler's getting, he's going to get low. He's getting older. Morgan Moses is getting older. Um, this is the year where I think Ben Cleveland has got to prove himself. I think he kind of won this draft a little bit. That tells me that they still have high hopes in him. So we'll see. But who I think was the steal for the draft for the Ravens was the 229th overall pick, Andrew Voorhees. I like this pick. It To me, this was unexpected. We moved back into the seventh round because we didn't have a seventh round pick. If you all know Andrew Voorhees, he tore his ACL while participating at the combine. While I don't expect him to play, we saw so much value in him. We traded next year's sixth round pick to get him. He was actually projected to go in the fourth round by many mock drafts. He made an All-American. He went on during the combine. He did a bench press for 38 reps, which was, I believe, the most by any player. When you're still valued as a top 100 pick, and unfortunately the injury process, to me, he's very versatile. He's very experienced. And I thought what stood out to me, he has very high IQ when I looked at the tape. And he's very physical. And I want that in the offensive line because, I've said this before on many occasions. I value offensive linemen. So I'm really, really excited for him. I wish him all the best in the safe and healthy recovery. And I think he's going to come into a better situation where we don't have to deal with an athletic training staff that rushes guys back. But this draft overall, if I had to give it, I give it an A. Because like I said, this draft really honestly and truthfully resetted some things, particularly regarding the culture, how we go about things in terms of we changed the offensive style. We're bringing in guys that I think fit Ravens flock football. Were there some reaches? No. Did I want to see some other things addressed earlier? Sure. Particularly with the corner. I'm not liking the fact we went to the fifth round to address it. But I understand. I don't think Patrick Queen will be traded. I would like to see Patrick Queen remain as a Baltimore Raven. But if he's traded, I wish him all the best. And thank you for what you've done for this team, more importantly for the city of Baltimore. To me, when we got into the LSU, I thought we were getting a great player. Unfortunately, when you have those in the media and, unfortunately, people have these real expectations on you. Some pan out, some don't. I think Patrick was right in the middle. I think Patrick Queen, to me, came in the midst of a weird period for the Ravens when we were mediocre. We weren't a true winning team. We lacked an identity. I can ramble on and on, but this draft was probably the best. And I'm excited for these guys' next OTAs, which I know guys don't like to attend because it's mandatory, but I understand it. But training camp, preseason, we're going to have a lot of great preseason content. I can't wait for that. But let's get into the final thought of this episode.
thoughts are running through my mind. So I took some time to find a minute or two to organize them.
The final thought from me is I talked about this in the draft grades. When I'm so happy to see a new chapter start in some of these young men and their lives as to begin a new journey in the NFL. What stood out to me about this draft is I can see a lot of guys' hard work, determination. To me, without your family, you wouldn't get where they're at today. For me, what I'm doing currently, I would not have pondered, starting a podcast, starting out really before starting a podcast, started making content with random social topics where some were deemed, some people liked, some didn't, and then turned into a sports podcast, and then it turned into joining a football community that I consider like the NWO of football. Like there's a DX side, there's an NWO side of it. Then turning around and being a media member for the WNBA, and now I'm a media member for Maryland women's basketball team. It's all because of, I think all of that would not have mattered if it wasn't for the support that I've gotten from many friends and family. And it's because of them, I'm really thankful for the opportunities that I've gotten. And it's just the beginning. And the same thing for these guys. It's just the beginning for them. Greatness is almost upon them. And it doesn't stop here. We can savor in the moment, but we got to keep striving forward. So that's my final thought. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. Be tuned in for future episodes at the Washington Commanders. That video will be recorded as well. But until then, please like, comment, and subscribe. I will catch you guys on the flip side. Y'all have a good night. Peace. Stay up.
Your next stop is your success. And clear negative eyes, please.
Thank you for tuning in to Big Nate Sports Talk. If you enjoyed that episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share the next big thing, the next up-and-coming sports journalist, Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
I want to thank you, yeah. I want to thank you. Ooh. For all the times you put up with me. Thank you. And you helped me retain my sanity. Thank you. I want to thank you. And I want to thank you. All I want to do is say thank you for everything you do.